The city of Vancouver, Canada, is built on the unceded traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. The city stands on the Burrard Peninsula at the base of the North Shore Mountains. It is bordered by the Fraser River to the south, Burrard Inlet to the north, and the Strait of Georgia to the west. Vancouver has much to offer for the lover of nature and the outdoors. We are ethnically and culturally diverse. We have the highest population density of any city in Canada. In fact, Vancouver was ranked as the most livable city in North America by the Economic Intelligence Unit, EIU, which releases an annual report. Cities are ranked based on stability, healthcare, culture and environment, education, and infrastructure. The EIU report does not, however, take cost of living into account. Vancouver is one of the most expensive cities in North America. In 2024, Demographia International Housing Report listed Vancouver as the third most unaffordable city in the world. Vancouver was one of 11 cities placed into a new category of impossibly unaffordable, with median house prices exceeding 9 times the median household income. In 2014, my wife and I were living in a friend's basement suite. The situation was both comfortable and convenient, but after the arrival of our son, we realized we were going to have to find a different place to live. We explored both traditional rentals and the real estate market, but even with 2 full-time professional salaries, it was difficult to find anything in our price range. A friend suggested we look into housing co-ops. We had no idea what that meant, but we started to do some research. Housing co-ops are cooperatively owned, not-for-profit housing collectives. There is no landlord, and they are typically run by an elected board of directors. The more we researched co-ops, the more interested we became. We had always been community-minded, and the idea of joint ownership and self-governance appealed to us greatly. After some research, we came across the website for CHFBC, the Co-op Housing Federation of British Columbia. The website had links to co-ops all over Vancouver, and we began sending out applications. 6 months and close to 20 applications later, we were invited to interview for membership at Paloma Housing Co-op in East Vancouver. It has now been 10 years since my family moved to Paloma. My son, Theo, has no memory of living anywhere else. He has grown up here, surrounded by friends and neighbors, a community of people who all know each other, who take care of each other, who have each other's backs. Paloma itself is also celebrating a birthday this year. The co-op is turning 40. As part of the celebration, I wanted to make a movie about the place where I live and the people who brought Paloma into being. I started by interviewing Pat McLean, a close friend who has been with the co-op from the very beginning.
My name's Pat McLean, and I moved into Paloma Housing Co-op August 1st, 1985. So that's 40 years that I've lived here, and I'm the only person that has lived in this unit, which is, it's kind of nice.
Okay, Robert Ferguson, and I've lived here since August of 1985, and I'm the original occupant of 104. Yeah.
I'm Gretchen Grabo, and I knew this woman, Alice, and she was a part of Inner City, So she invited me to the second meeting of pre-Paloma Co-op.
My name is Cynthia Mechon.
And how did you get involved in co-op housing?
In the early 80s, when groups like Inner City Housing were starting to gather force, Inner City Housing is the group that developed this co-op. And so Alice Sundberg, who was here tonight, she had gotten a job at Inner City Housing. And she got me a job at Inner City Housing, kind of an entry-level clerical job. People were starting to get really interested in the co-ops and putting their names on waiting lists, and Inner City kept this big waiting list and stuff like that. And after a while, she had I guess they knew this land was going to become available. And Alice came to me and Fred Michael, who was here, and I'm not sure, I guess they found the other people off of the waiting list, people that just kind of seemed like they might be interested or likely, and asked us if we wanted to form a core group to set up a new housing co-op.
My name's Alice Sundberg, and I used to work for a company called Inner City Housing. Inner City Housing was actually a nonprofit society that was focusing on developing housing co-ops. It was a time when there were several really good federal housing programs that were helping to fund and make these projects affordable.
Yeah, I was working at the time at a place called Red Door Rental Aid Society. It was a nonprofit organization where we help people find housing. And I could see the dire situation, and I thought about what are things going to be like for me when I get older? There's going to be nothing out there that I can afford. So one of the things that we did at the time was we started up Red Door Housing Society, where we developed, built, and managed nonprofit housing. But I didn't think that that was appropriate for me because I was, of course, the executive director of the organization, so I didn't think I should be moving into it as well. And at that time, I was making more money too. So, so I thought co-op housing sounded pretty good. I had some friends who were living in co-op housing, so they convinced me that this was a good thing to do, was to apply for co-op housing. So I did. I applied to the resource group that was developing Paloma. And so I was on the list, and we got a call. There were a number of us that worked for Red Door that got the call to come to interviews. So I went to the interview, and I was selected. So that was pretty exciting.
I was told that you had worked at the Red Door Rental Aid
Yeah.
Society, and was that how you got involved?
Yeah, that's how I got involved. And then Pat McLean was working there. Doris, who is also a member here for a long time, passed away unfortunately, and she was in the suite just above me. And there was Gwen, and I think Gretchen was also working there. I can't remember if there's anybody else. There was one or two other people that moved that were there that moved into Paloma Co-op when they became available.
We got access to a piece of property through the city of Vancouver. We had a group of people who were interested in living in a co-op, and we formed a co-op starting group, right? So a basic group that formed the first board.
What was your involvement during the inception of Paloma?
Well, as I mentioned, I joined Paloma in November of 1984. So I was, elected as treasurer very soon after. And, that was one of the things that I was involved in. And also, I would come by every week because I worked only a few blocks away, but I would come by every week and take pictures of the building of Paloma. So that was really exciting to watch it go up and change from week to week.
Was Paloma built at all?
No,
at that
no,
time?
no. It was just an idea.
We used to meet all the time and get updates, and we would get updates on how the lease was going to evolve. And then eventually we started interviewing people to get more people into the co-op. So there's like the very small core group, and then there's the second tier. And it's not really clear to me, kind of who came in when, but I remember a lot of work for this invisible thing that we just were told was going to happen. And there were just many, many meetings long before, anything happened.
What attracted you to the idea of living in a co-op?
Well, I mentioned, the security, not being forced to move at the whim of somebody else, um, and safety, and the idea of community as well. I wanted to be surrounded by people that were like-minded, that we cared for each other, and that we worked together to build and create and maintain a really safe, supportive community. So those were the kinds of things that that I was interested in. And of course, the nonprofit aspect of it as well, because I really felt that, having profit in housing made it really unaffordable for people. And so knowing that, we controlled the housing charges, as we called them, was important to me.
I think it was about the same time that there was sort of a diaspora of Chilean refugees from Chile because of the Pinochet government as well. So.
Okay. Were you involved with Chilean refugees?
Well, I was actually part of LaCana, so I was involved in LaCana, and LaCana was one of the community organizations that was sponsored by the Chilean community. So one of the original members had been here, who was a Chilean poet. I think it's Rodriguez.
My name is Carmen Rodriguez, or Carmen Rodriguez, if you wish. I got involved with Paloma Co-op Housing through Linda Forsyth, who was a founding member of this co-op. And she used to work as a volunteer at La Quena Coffee House on Commercial Drive. And I was there one day, and I was finding out about, looking for a place to live. And she said, I'm part of this co-op, and I think you should consider that. La Quena was a coffee house, and it was founded by a group of Chileans and Canadians at the beginning of the 80s. As a place as a hub for the Latin American and Canadian communities that were interested in social justice, in what was going on around the world, and so on. So when Linda talked to me about Paloma, and also the name caught my eye and my ears right away, because it's the Spanish word for a dove.
Yeah, so like in Vancouver long ago, there was a big march for peace, and I don't even know what war was going on at the time. It was a huge peace march in Vancouver, huge. Probably the biggest march I'd ever seen. We'd have to look it up. And it made such an impression on me, And right after that, we had the name contest. So people were going to pick a name, and we were going to vote on the best name. And I'm a Spanish speaker. My father is from Mexico. And so I have 2 tracks of language running in my head all the time, right? And I was so impressed, really, for the Peace March. I just went, well, peace, I think we should have a name about peace, because most of us were there. I mean, it had a big effect on Vancouver. And I thought, I just came to him, I said, well, the dove of peace, Paloma is dove, right? So that's why I said Paloma. It just came to me for that reason. And the other names were just terrible. That's the real reason. They're Cottonwood Corners with K's.
Did being at Paloma help to support you in either your work as an activist or in your writing?
Definitely. Being at Paloma gave me peace of mind. I knew that whatever little or a lot of money I was making, I would be able to pay my rent, because the rent fluctuated depending on how much I was making. Fortunately, again, I was able to find work in my field in 1986. So I was able to begin paying market rent, but I was still comfortable with what I made. So having that kind of peace of mind is fundamental for anybody. Not having the stress of am I going to make it to the end of the month? Am I going to be able to get the money together to pay the rent? Is priceless. So it helped me, living here helped me in the sense that it gave me the peace of mind, and also I was surrounded by activists in many ways. So I felt that I was with the people that I wanted to be with. I wrote my entire book of short stories here at Paloma. In a little, the suite that we were in had a storage room that was like it was a storage room, but I could fit a desk and a chair there. And so I wrote that entire book in that little room. And some of those stories were in part inspired by the feeling of community and the feeling of cooperation that was all around me at the co-op.
You okay, Ruby?
I'm fine. I'm just not going great.
Well, I'll just practice a bit.
It's the pin's fault.
Fine.
Oh,
So
it's
just give it-
pinned terribly.
Well, Ruby, fabric stretches. So this is it. Sometimes, like this type of fabric, you can't cut super precise because it has a bit of a stretch to it.
Sucks.
So you just give it a bit more room.
You
like-
try one.
Okay.
I'll play with the dog.
Paloma is all about community. Whether we are organizing a potluck, planning the layout of garden beds in one of the courtyards, or renegotiating our land lease with the City of Vancouver, it is a community activity. There are currently 8 active committees at Paloma: membership, landscape, community engagement, maintenance, emergency preparedness, finance, communications, and technology. There are also usually at least 1 or 2 ad hoc committees that are active at any given time to deal with temporary or pressing issues. All the committees answer to the Board of Directors, who are elected annually and serve a 2-year term. I am currently the president of the board at Paloma. It is my second time in this role. Almost everyone who lives at Paloma has served on the board or one of the other committees, often multiple times. Those who choose not to take part in committees usually take on a chore, such as watering the garden or keeping the hallways and stairwells clean. Everyone gets involved, and we know our neighbors well.
Richard Magnuson. I lived in the co-op 28, and this will be my 29th year in September.
You know, I think you were on the maintenance committee, or I think you kind of were the maintenance committee when I moved in.
I was the one who put your first apartment together.
Yeah.
From beginning to end.
Yeah, and that was,
I was
10 years ago.
I was pushing it through. I pushed it. It would have been 2 or 3 weeks, and I did it in a week. And I had you guys in, I think, 2 weeks.
So, Richard, how did you get involved with the co-op?
Robert, who lives in the building, I met him a year before I moved into the co-op. He came out to one of my bocce ball practices. That's what I used to play back in the day. And that's how I met Robert. And Robert came over to my old house and looked. And he couldn't believe I was living in a non-disabled house. And he said, "Did you want to move?" And I said, "Yes." I was looking for a new place because the rent was going up and my income wasn't that high. So that was one of the reasons. And so I gave me the application, I filled it out. I was against another person, and that person was between me and another person. And that person wasn't in quite need of a disabled suite, so they took me and I moved in 28 years ago. It'll be 29 years in September.
So I wanted to ask you, so you've been through a lot of major events at the co-op. You were here through remediation, and also the fire was something. And I was wondering if you could tell me a bit, especially about your experience with the fire. What happened with that?
Well, that was a big, big thing. There was 2 fires back in the day, God, 20, I don't know, like years ago, back before '09. It was one suite caught on fire, and it took out 2 suites, and that was 6 months. I was involved in that one, and the contractor seemed to like me because I was on the maintenance at the time, but I wasn't sure. I'm very sociable, so they came up to me and asked me all these questions, and I was the go-between with the trades. 6 months after that, we had a huge fire. It took out half the co-op in 1638. It took out 11 suites, 2 fire suites, and the rest was water damage. That was 6 months. I was a part of that from beginning to end. That big fire was, I was just coming off a bocce ball tournament. I came home and I looked, and the fire came that night, and it was huge. And I looked around at all the people, what I thought were going to be out of their apartments or move out. 14 feet of flames coming out of the roof. So it was pretty bad. So they tore off the roof so nobody could live there. So they took out everybody and moved everybody out. Then the contractors started coming to me, and I said, "Oh, this is crazy." So I said, "I guess I got to be involved in this." So I went up to Stephen and said, "Stephen, they're asking me all these questions. So what do I do? Because I'm not anything." And I said, "Should I join the board to be part of this, and then I can be helping do the mediation with all this?" And he says, "That's a good idea." So me and him joined the board. He took over all the insurance, and I left, and I just did all the trades. I stayed there from the day it started until the first person moved back in, and then I went home and fell asleep.
What are some sort of difficult times that have happened when you've been living in the co-op?
Well, there have been a number of really difficult times, I must say. One, we had for a couple of years, we had a member who caused no end of difficulty. He was very toxic, and every committee had to deal with his issues and what he was doing to the co-op, and the board had to do it. And we tried to terminate his membership, but unfortunately lost the court case because we didn't dot our I's and cross our T's. However, he was ordered to pay what he owed us, and then he didn't, and so we eventually did terminate his membership. We were successful. And that was really challenging because it affected everybody in the co-op. Another thing that happened was horrible. We had a big fire in the co-op. We have 2 buildings that each have 22 units. And the fire happened in our east building. And it was quite big, and I remember standing outside there on the corner, watching it, and at one point thinking, I think it's over now, when all of a sudden it shot across the roof of one whole section of that building, and so it ended up affecting 11 units. Yeah, so we also, and this was really major, we had building envelope failure. There was a whole actually bunch of buildings in BC that were experiencing this at the same time. They called them leaky condos. Well, we were a leaky co-op, and there were about 60 leaky co-ops in BC, which was a large number. So, for a while, we had a couple of units that had 2x4s that were propping up their balconies. And so that was really, really bad. But then all of our balconies were condemned. And so for a year, we couldn't go out on our balconies. So that was really not a great time. But we eventually did get funding. We had to get remortgaged, and we ended up with 3 mortgages instead of 1. So that was a challenge. There was a point where CMHC even said that they weren't going to fix our co-op. They said it was going to be too costly to fix. But again, we got going, as we do in Paloma, and got the numbers redone. We had our engineer do another survey and figure it all out, and got the numbers down, and finally figured out that we could be fixed. But as I said, we had to end up with 3 mortgages. We got some support from the government as well. So the whole process took at least 5 years from beginning to end. We were pretty unsightly and pretty, as I say, unusable in some cases for a lot of time. And we had to lobby the government in order to get help. And of course, CHFBC was doing that. As I say, 60 co-ops were affected in BC. So, and we needed the help from co-ops across the country because the federal government had to be lobbied. And we only had a small handful of Liberal MPs. That was the Liberal government at the time. And so we could lobby all we wanted. They might not have had much effect. But because we were with a national organization, the co-ops in Ontario got involved. Wasn't their problem, but they got involved lobbying. And finally, we got fixed because of their lobbying efforts. So that's one of the important reasons for being a member of CHF Canada. Because you never know when you're going to need that kind of support. And we have supported the Ontario co-ops at times as well.
My name is Emily, and I've lived at Paloma for almost 12 years. So I am the liaison for the co-op for the federal and provincial organizations that represent housing co-ops. And what that means is that I get to go to events and the AGMs for those 2 federations. So every year I go to the national AGM, and that involves going to their business meeting, as well as they have a significant education conference that happens, and it takes place at various parts of Canada. So Toronto, Ottawa, I've been to Winnipeg, which is amazing. And then the BC, they have a number of events. So they'll do usually a semi-annual meeting and an annual meeting, as well as their education conferences. So those are opportunities for members of the various housing co-ops to come together to learn, to share updates on what the Federation has been up to, so the board of directors and the staff that work there, and to share any kind of sector-wide things that are happening and things that we might want to be involved with. So it could be, advocating for something at a various level of government, or understanding, what's happening locally in terms of what's impacting the co-ops.
Well, my name is Danny Lubert. I'm currently the president of the board of directors for CHFBC. I live in the Ford Road Housing Co-op, and I think that's the next question, in Pitt Meadows, BC, where I have been there for about 6 years. I've also been volunteering a little bit with CHF Canada and some of their Indigenous kind of outreach and the projects related to that for their Indigenous director and the Indigenous communities work. So I've been trying to get myself as involved with it because it's such a great movement to be a part of, and it really does lead to some really amazing things when you start to build community around yourself and start bringing people together.
My name's John Bathurst. I live in Misty Ridge Housing Co-op on Burnaby Mountain. My wife Pat and I have lived there since Misty Ridge started almost 40 years ago. In the last 10 years since retirement, I've been a member of CHF BC's board of directors, and I'm currently on CHF Canada's board of directors. I always say our little Misty Ridge 70 units represents the planet. And if we can solve our little problems or our big problems as they come along, there's hope for the planet. And we've certainly done that over our years in the co-op.
My name is Sally Yee. I'm a member in Fraser View Housing Co-op in the River District, and I'm also on the CHF BC board. I'm really hoping that we can build more co-ops, And the government is, on side with that. So, they know that we need more affordable housing, especially the young people. There's no way they can get into the housing market to purchase anything. And even in Vancouver proper, the rentals are just insane. They just can't afford it. So, I mean, that's one aspect, but that's not the only aspect of it. And I'd like to see really like the community part of it, really that's what they embrace. It's a way of life, like if I won the lotto, I wouldn't move out right away and buy this mansion with the swimming pool and all that sort of stuff. I would stay right where I am. I love my place. I love my neighbors, and I would build co-ops with the money, right?
My name is Ian Marcuse, and I have lived at Paloma now for about 20 years. Feel incredibly grateful for living here. I was demo evicted from a previous residence, so to be able to move into a co-op and to be able to stay in the community where I've lived for 38 years was really important to me. It was really interesting. When I first moved into Paloma, this whole front area was basically just grass. And so it was nondescript. It wasn't well used, it wasn't that beautiful. And when Paloma went through remediation, we had an opportunity to redesign the landscape substantially. Most of the landscape, as I was saying, was really unused. It was not that pretty. At any rate, I mean, we had these enormous trees, so the grass wasn't even doing very well. So it made a lot of sense for us to convert the landscape to a much more natural look. So we took out all the grass and started filling it in with ferns and more native plants and drought-resistant plants, and to create more of a natural woodland look. Hey, Tom Tom. Hi, Tom Tom. It's our resident kitty cat. He's a sweetie. So we have this stunning landscape, but it's made possible through the design of the space, the building and the urban design that has offered us a large outdoor space to work with, which is quite unique. And I would argue that Paloma is a beautiful example of good design. A previous design did not work for accessibility, so we redid this whole central plaza that was more wheelchair accessible. But what I love about this plaza, and from an urban design perspective, is it's wide open. The space allows for larger gatherings, so often we'll have birthday parties out here, big celebrations and other things. But we also have these like intimate spaces, where people can just sit and read a book and have a conversation, right? It's a nice wide open space, so it gets a lot of sunlight. And what I love about the design of this space is you also have these balconies where people can look down and they can see what's going on and say hi to their neighbors. It's a lovely design. Unfortunately, at some point this building will have to be torn down because it'll reach its end of life cycle. And the sad thing is that likely what will replace it will be something far more dense, more units, more densification, less outdoor space, which is what we typically see in large urban centers. The value is more on the units than the landscape. But I would argue, you really need that outdoor landscape. That is of tremendous value. Again, the community building, and developers and the economists, I don't think they fully understand just how important these common areas are for the community.
back in the day, the city, and I think for several years already had this thing called the Property Endowment Fund, and that they used that fund to purchase properties that was going to be used for affordable housing. Well, the thing that I'm concerned about the city is I think that their principles, their fundamental principles around their property endowment fund has really shifted to one more of how can we get revenue rather than how can we assist affordability. So back then they acquired these properties and they're intentionally finding ways to make them more affordable, make the land more affordable by doing these leaseholds. Well, now these leaseholds are expiring, and the city, it seems, is looking at how can we make more money off them, rather than how can we assist them to continue to be providing affordable housing in the community.
Paloma is on City of Vancouver leased land, and as part of our lease agreement, recently we've needed to increase our housing charges to be tied to the market rates. And what the impacts of that have been that there's been issues with affordability. So some of our members are able to access a federal subsidy program that provides housing charge support for them, which is fantastic and I hope lasts forever. But the issue is with tying our housing charges to market rates is that we live in Vancouver, which you might have heard is not super affordable. It is actually one of the least affordable places in Canada, if not the world. And so when we're having to adjust our housing charges year after year to be connected to those market fluctuations, it can be really hard for really all of our members to be able to deal with those fluctuations, but particularly those members who are just above the threshold to access the federal subsidy. As a cooperative housing organization, we don't fall under the BC Residency Tenancy Act. So whereas renters will have some protections around housing charge increases or rent increases, we don't have that. So whereas, I think this year it was less than 3% that a landlord could increase the rent to, we don't have that. So a couple of years ago, because there's new developments and things happening in our neighborhood, our market rates went up by over 6%. What is challenging is that we've been a very well-run co-op for over 40 years now. We do our annual budget. We ensure that things are, well-maintained, that we're doing upgrades as needed. We also put significant money into replacement reserves. We do building assessments. So we're well governed and managed on that side. But these tying things to market means that we can't tie our housing charges to what it actually takes to operate our building and be a sustainable community, but rather kind of to these outside forces that are impacting the crazy housing market that is Vancouver.
Is that your cat there?
That is my cat. That is Tom Tom.
Tom Tom. Cute. My name is Shanti Violet Cordoni Jordan. Cordoni from my dad's side, Chris Cordoni, and Jordan, my mom's side, Nene Jordan.
Oh. How long have you lived at Paloma?
I've lived here for 23 years, so since birth. Okay. Yep, still going strong. It was a wonderful place to grow up. It's the only home I know, so it is a little hard to compare it to other things because I haven't had that diverse range of experiences. But yeah, as a home, oh hi Tom Tom. You want to be a part of the interview too. Center of attention. when I was growing up, there weren't too many other kids my age, but there were a few that were my sister's age, so just a few years older, and we would play together and have that time just with the kids, playing in the courtyard, the shared spaces, and it's great to see that happening now too, like as the generations continue, there's still that same kind of connection that you can see in the shared spaces. Just remembering the potlucks and like festive gatherings like Christmas or just a barbecue, and that would happen every now and then, and I remember always going to those with my family, and that was always a time to get to know the other neighbors and just be together. Yeah, I guess me staying here is definitely a sign of it being a, a great place to live. My parents were ready to leave. They had my dad had his retirement plan and they were just ready for somewhere else to settle down. But for me, it is such a place of comfort and stability, and definitely the big reason was affordability. Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective now, being here on my own as an adult versus growing up here as a kid. So I definitely have a lot of newfound appreciation for co-ops and for Paloma, and being able to actually like learn how a place like this is run, I think is a very unique opportunity, and I'm just so grateful to still be here and to now be seeing the other side of this community.
How are you doing, Lynette and Carmen? You okay? Is it gonna fall off?
Probably.
Yeah, let's not even. Let's. We could do it in that arbor there, where the berries are. I don't know. Yeah, the height is high as you can reach, basically. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
You want me to wrap it around again?
No, it's okay.
Do you want me to take the other end and see what I can do with it?
Yeah, let's see. Maybe see how far it will go. We might do like a little, not like flush to it, but like.
get started, folks. So if you kind of like to make your way closer to the stage, does it work? Well, welcome everyone. This is just fabulous. It's so great to see so many people that have lived in the co-op and those that still live in the co-op. Some of us for longer years than we really care to mention. So this is a great event. It's something that we definitely need to celebrate, 40 years of living at Paloma. All right, so the first speaker then that we would like to bring up and say a few words to you is Jenny Kwan. Come on up, Jenny.
I am so delighted to be here, of course, joined by so many special guests, in particular, noting Libby Davies. When I first came in, we were just talking about Paloma and the beginning of Paloma, and someone said, "You weren't here, were you, at the opening?" And I said, you know, darn, it was just before my time. But of course, Bruce Erickson was the late City Councillor Bruce Erickson, who's been a fighter in their community in the downtown east side. And then, of course, Libby and so many generations of people fighting for the community and building affordable housing, social housing, co-op housing, the model actually that works. You know, we're in a situation, yes. We're in a situation where there's a housing crisis, and I feel like saying, you know what? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. Build social housing, build co-ops housing, the models that work, build it, invest in it, and guess what? You will actually solve the housing crisis.
Yeah, well, happy birthday, Paloma. This is incredible. I realized on the way here, I've been here before, and it was the first place I ever knocked on doors. In 2022, I was running with for the election then. It was a bit of a different scenario. I was with a different party, but I still know the value of community, and this was the first place that we chose to come and knock on doors. And it's real community. I was talking to Ben. You know, you might not always agree, but you talk it out, and places like this plaza and the gardens and everything, you can't like replicate that. Like city bureaucrats don't see the value of that on paper. It's not quantifiable. You know what I mean? Big changes are coming. You know, the city has their eyes set on co-ops and trying to maximize value and land value and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of, all co-ops are different, but a lot of co-ops have leases coming up, and that's something that I'm going to remain committed to signing those leases and to building more co-ops with the help of the federal and provincial governments, of course. But yeah, you know, I think I was elected, you know, in the by-election for that kind of thing, to fight for places like this, and for marginalized communities, and for all of Vancouver, to make Vancouver a place for everyone, not just for those who can afford it, right?
I wanted, you know, I was debating whether or not I'd bring Emily, but I realized, you know, what is a co-op without children? What is a co-op without community? What is the co-op without the next generation? Thinking of the previous generations, the stories that we all hear and we listen to, we teach to each other. You know, we think about everything that goes on and the work we do. I think about the work we do around the board of directors. And Lisa, good to see you here, friend. You know, I think about all that, what we strive for, what we do, and the passion that burns and brings us here. It's the same that we have in our own community. There we go. Thank you. Thinking about that, you know, what does it mean to be in a co-op? What does it mean to be, you know, for myself, an Indigenous person here in a co-op? When I think so much about community as a strong part of my own, it's my background, it's my heritage, it's the very fabric from which I am a part of. You want to put it back in? All right. Okay, so with that, on behalf of CHFBC, we have a wonderful plaque here that we would like to present to Paloma and congratulations for the 40 years. And I look forward to watching the rest of this as we and the rest of the board continue to help and support you through what you need to do.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Ben.
Thank you.
You want to give him a high five, hon? There you go.
Nice. All right. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you so much for having me here. I am the BC Yukon Regional Director and President of CHF Canada. I'd like to begin by very briefly acknowledging that we gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I am so honored to be here with you today representing CHF Canada, your national federation. But I'm personally pretty excited to be here too. I grew up in this neighborhood. I grew up at Grandview Housing Co-op. I went to Britannia. I visited classmates here after school. I even delivered scoop. Paloma was on my route. 2025 is the International Year of the Cooperative. This is not just a celebration of co-ops, it's also a reminder that when we come together as a collective, we create stronger and more resilient communities. Cooperative housing is more than just a housing solution, it's an economic and social imperative. The housing co-op movement is part of something much bigger, from worker co-ops to producer co-ops to consumer co-ops and more. Co-op is an economic model grounded in community, in people. Co-op is an empowerment model. Your co-op is a wonderful example of how co-op housing builds community. Paloma Co-op is a stable community and a healthy business. Even while working through the renegotiation of your land lease with the City of Vancouver, no easy task, glad you're on it. You've kept building your community and supporting one another and clearly taking incredible care of your building. Your community garden is a gorgeous example. Thanks to the hard work of your gardening committee, fresh produce goes into your communal fridge as it's harvested and neighbors are invited to help themselves. This small food sharing program is a wonderful reminder of the benefits of co-op living, of community. In recognition of your 40th anniversary, I'm pleased to present you with this, one sec. Oh, it's all wrapped up. Who would like to unbox this?
I think it's probably me. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
You're gonna bring it out so everyone can see? I'm
Yeah.
good. How are you?
Good.
So this is a framed Raven and the First Men print by Bill Reed. So while we're unwrapping, I'll just finish up. So thank you. Thank you. Oh, there we go. It's lovely.
Okay, should we do it all together? Okay. Oh, this is amazing. Okay. I want to take a moment to pause on this image. This is not the first time a cake has been cut at Paloma. I am not the first president, nor will I be the last. Just as Paloma is a community, we are also part of a larger movement. We are supported by our federations and by over 2,000 other co-ops across Canada. We have wonderful allies in the local, provincial, and federal government. In an age where the dominant culture encourages each individual to look out for his or her own narrow interests, co-ops offer a refreshing opportunity for solidarity. Living at Paloma didn't teach me to care about my neighbors. It taught me how to care for my neighbors. Co-ops are vital training grounds for aware, involved citizens. If we want democracy to continue to function in our governments, we need individuals with lived experience of how it works. Self-determination is hard work, but sometimes it comes with cake. All right, here we go. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Paloma. Happy birthday to you.
I was actually hired by CHF Canada and worked for them for 14 years as the member relations manager for the whole country. And when I was interviewed, you know, that was sort of one of the questions that was asked, like, you know, why? And I said, well, I thought that cooperation was a way of life, that I wanted it to be my whole life, that that's the way I worked in the world.
I've lived here long enough. I've seen entire families grow up. I've seen their kids come back. I've been here long enough to do that, and then see the kids have their children, and you know, it's just, you know, I mean, it's a reconnection and a development of a family environment.
And something I do want to say that I don't think most people recognize is that the skills that some of us gained by doing that work, we've been able to carry on into other things. It was a very important political and professional experience for me.
Well, it's sort of a remedy for capitalism.
Okay.